Alright, so the second part of graphing the quadratic functions, once again, to graph them, they have to be in standard form in order for us to put it in our calculator. Remember, at this point, standard form we know is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Okay, so it's got to be in that format so you can put in the calculator. Now the graph of the quadratic form equation will always be in the shape of a parabola. Okay, that's what this shape is officially called. I've been using that word in the other podcasts. Alright, so we'll graph parabolas that open up as well as ones that open down. The leading coefficient, or the A number, determines whether the parabola opens up or down, and here's basically all that means. Okay, if A is positive, if this first A is positive, that's what we're focusing on. Okay, if that's positive, the parabola opens up. Okay, so basically if the first A number is positive, it opens up like a smiley face. That's our parabola. If the A is negative, it's going to open down. It'll look like this. It'll look like a sad face. Okay? Alright, so that's just a quick way you can check which direction it should go. Okay? Alright, when graphing a quadratic function, we must first determine the high point. Okay, so the high point if it opens down. So if it opens down, we want that highest point. Or the opposite would be the lowest point if it opens up. Okay, it's kind of like the tip, right? Whether it's the lowest point or the highest point. This is called the vertex. Okay, so that's the other important point we need, is the vertex. Last podcast we learned how to find the x-intercepts. So once you have the x-intercepts and the vertex, that's enough information to graph the parabola properly. Alright, so here's how we find the vertex. Alright, step 1, we set the function equal to 0. If it's not, type it into the y1. And in this case, we don't need the y equals 0 because we're not finding the intercept. Okay, so here we just graph the parabola. Now here's the part that's different. Okay, so when we're finding the vertex, step 3, you're going to go to second trace, which is still your second calc button, right? But instead of choosing 5 intersect, we're going to choose either, and this is where you got to think carefully. Okay, but use the picture to guide you. We're going to find the minimum if it opens up. It's because the minimum means it's the lowest point. Or you would choose maximum if it's down, because in that case it's the highest point. Okay, and so that's really all you do. Now step 4, you're going to have to move the cursor to the left of the vertex first and press enter. Then you go to the right of the vertex and press enter. So basically the vertex is in the middle. You chose the left side and the right side. Then you hit enter and it'll give you the answer. Okay? Alright, so just to kind of run through that, if we, this is just a practice problem. Whatever they typed it in, you get the graph, right? Now if you notice, this parabola opens up. So we are going to find the vertex here. And here the vertex is the lowest point, right? Think about it. It's dipping down and coming up. We want the lowest point. So when we do second calc, we're going to choose number 3, which is the minimum. That's what we're finding. So the first question the calculator asks you is, it says left bound. So you just go somewhere to the left of the minimum. Remember, the minimum is right here at the bottom. So somewhere to the left of it, you hit enter. And then once you enter, the calculator changes the question. Now it says right bound. Okay, so once again, we're trying to find this point. So you go to the right of that, hit enter. And then the last question is just guess. And when you hear this, you just hit enter and it'll give you the answer. See, now it goes directly to that tip and it tells you the vertex is at negative 2.5, negative 2.25. Okay? So that's basically how we use our calculator to find our vertex. Alright, so let's practice a couple of these here. Okay? So once again, just using our graphing calculator. Alright, so on the next page, the first equation is y equals x squared minus 6x plus 1. This is in standard form, so we can just go put it into our calculator. Alright, so let me go over here. Alright, let's clear out all this other stuff we have. Alright, so the first equation is x squared minus 6x plus 1. And we're going to graph it. Let's take a look at how our parabola looks. Alright, as you can see, the parabola is opening upwards because the first number, our a, was a positive 1, so it should open up. Okay, so now let's think about our vertex. We are trying to find the vertex, which is here. You have to think, is this the highest point or the lowest point? This is the lowest point, so we're going to find the minimum. Minimum means lowest. So anytime we're finding something, second calc, and now we're finding the minimum. So go down to 3 and hit enter. Alright, so remember, this question is left bound. So that means we have to go left of the vertex. Okay, so try to get close. You don't have to get super close. Like, that's good enough right there. I'm left of, because that's the point I'm trying to find. Hit enter. That's our left bound. Now the calculator is saying right bound, meaning go to the right of what we're trying to find. So let's go down. Okay, now it's on the right. Hit enter. And then this is just guess. This is telling the calculator to guess the vertex. And then here we see that this is the value. Okay, 2.999, as you can see, if we round that, I mean, that's really basically 3. Okay, so the value of this vertex is 3, comma, -8. Okay, that's the value. See, 1, 2, 3, and then down 8. Okay, so it's just that easy. Alright, and so if I needed to graph this, I just put that point. I remember last podcast I had to find the x-intercept, so once you have that, we can graph that. Okay, alright, let's try another one. Now we have y equals -2x squared minus 8x plus 10. That's in standard form. Alright, now notice, look at what our a is. Our a is -2. So if you think about it, if I make a prediction, that's going to make my parabola open down or upside down. Alright, so let's go start over. Y screen. Let's clear that first one out, and let's put that equation in. -2x squared minus 8x plus 10. Let's graph that. Let's take a look at that parabola. Okay. Alright, now this one, you know, it's really big. It's going off the screen, but it's opening upside down. If we were to follow the path, it'd kind of go up and over, and then it would come back and down. Okay? So here we're finding the maximum. So we're going to do second calc, and now we're going to choose number 4 for the maximum, or the highest point. Okay? Now, so this one's going to be a little tough. So left bound. Right now the cursor's here, so we're going to have to move it. But if you watch, look at the y's. It's going up. It's going up 17, and now it's coming back down. So now that it's coming back down, that's my left. Oh, well, way too much. Alright. Sorry. That's what happens if you push it too many times. So, let me get this. So as you can see, look at my y. I'm down at like -30. I went way too far. Okay. So I'm going to get it kind of top of the screen. I'll just do enter here. And now I need to go to the right bound, so I got to go up and over and come back over here. So let's go to the right. Okay. And then it should start coming back down. 17.9, 17.8. Okay. Okay, here's my cursor. Now it's on the right side. So we'll hit enter. We're going to tell it to guess. And here you can see, once again, it's not exact, but -2.000001 is really just -2. And the y is 18. That's why it's way off the screen. Alright, so this answer was at -2, +18. Okay? Alright, just real quick to try this on your own. Pause it real fast. Try just this last one on your own, and let's see if you get it. Okay? If you need help, if you get it wrong, come see me, okay? But yeah, try number 3, and let's compare answers. Alright, so for number 3, your vertex should have been at -2, -9. Because the a is positive, your parabola should have opened up like this. Therefore, our vertex is down here. It's the lowest. You should have chosen minimum. Left point, right point. Okay? Alright, so now let's put all this together. Let's put our vertex and our x-intercepts together and find out how to actually graph a parabola. Okay? So, here's the thing. I'm going to change this a little bit. When graphing a quadratic function, we want at least 5. I'm going to change that to 3. Okay? As long as you have 3 points, the vertex and the 2 x-intercepts, you'll be good. Okay? So, step 1. Find and plot the vertex. And it says by hand using the calculator. We are using the calculator. Step 2, this is one little new thing, but it's pretty easy. It's drawing the axis of symmetry. Okay, and to use a dotted line, and I'll show you what that is in a minute. And then step 3, plot the x-intercepts. Okay, so we're just going to put everything in this podcast and the last podcast together. All right, so let's first start here. Let's graph this equation, x squared minus 2x minus 3. Okay, so let's clear out this screen and let's put this new equation in. X squared minus 2x minus 3. Alright, now let's graph that, because we're just going to find our vertex first. Excuse me. Alright, by the way, if your calculator ever gets crooked like this, you can fix it if you just hit the zoom button and go to zoom standard number 6. That kind of resets the graph so it's in the center. See, just kind of reset it back in the middle. Okay? Alright, so now let's find our vertex. So the vertex, remember, we are going to calculate, in this case, this is the vertex, this is the lowest point. So I'm going to go to second calc, I'm going to choose minimum. Minimum is the lowest point. Remember, the first question is left bound. My cursor is already here on the left, somewhere to the left of this. Okay? Hit enter. Now it's asking for the right bound, so I got to move the cursor to the right of the vertex. So let's click it a few times. Let's get it over so it's coming up a little bit. That's good. Enter. Guess. So now it's telling my vertex is that I can round that to just 1, negative 4. Alright, so let's put that down here. 1, negative 4. Okay? So basically, here's what we're going to do. We'll get all the information, then make the graph. I'm going to come back to this axis of symmetry last. Alright, these additional points, those are going to be the x-intercepts. Okay? So, let's go back to our calculator. Let's go back to the y screen. Now remember what we're going to do. If we're going to find the x-intercepts, we're going to be telling the calculator to tell us where this graph intersects the x-axis. So remember, we have to give it a second line. So remember, the x-axis, you set the second one to y equals 0. Y equals 0 is the x-axis. So now I'm going to regraph it. I still see the same parabola. This didn't change. So what the calculator is graphing now is this line. And we can't see it because it's directly on the line. Alright, but now remember, we're going to tell the calculator to find where this parabola intersects the x-axis here, and where the parabola intersects the x-axis here. So remember, intersecting, we have to tell the calculator to calculate, second calc, the intersection. So that's number 5. So we're going to go to intersect. Alright, so remember, just move it close to the first intercept, somewhere around here. Remember, just enter, enter, enter. So the first x-intercept is right here at negative 1, 0. Alright, so the first one is negative 1, 0. Okay, and then remember there's 2 answers because it crossed at 2 places, so I got to do this again, but over here. So start over again with the second calc. We are once again telling the calculator to find the intersect, enter, but now we're going to move over to the right side of the parabola. So get it kind of close to where it touches the x-axis. Remember, it can be under or over as long as it's close. And then enter, enter, enter. Alright, so this point is on 3, 0. Alright, now I'm ready to graph. Okay, so I'm just going to plot these points on here. Okay, so let's do the vertex first. It was at 1, 4. Remember, when we graph, first number is the x value, second number is the y value. So I'm going to go positive 1 on the x, and then down 4, negative 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my vertex. Alright, now let's graph the 2 other points, the x-intercepts. Negative 1, 0, so that means I go negative 1 on the x, always start at the origin. 0 means I don't move up or down. And then the other one was at positive 3, 0. So start at the origin, 1, 2, 3, 0. Okay, now, here's the thing about the axis of symmetry. Alright, symmetry just means the same on both sides. So if I take a shape like a circle, right? If I were to draw a line like this, that is an axis of symmetry because the circle is basically the exact same on both sides. Alright, and that's what's going to happen with the parabola. The parabola, from the vertex, It's the exact same on both sides. It's like a mirror. So if I graph my axis of symmetry, it goes through the vertex. So if I take my ruler and I graph this dotted line, and we always use a dotted line for the axis of symmetry because it's kind of like it's invisible. Now, if I give this equation if I give this line an equation, excuse me. Now remember this old stuff. This is a vertical line. So remember, vertical is a Vux line. So a Vux line starts off with x equals. So the axis of symmetry, x equals, well, where is it at? It's at positive 1. So that's how you would find the axis of symmetry. It's just where is it in the middle. So now if we put all this together, now if I graph the parabola, so if I just connect the dots now, just the general shape. It doesn't have to be exact as long as you got these important points. But before we do that, look what happens. See how the axis of symmetry is here? It's the same on both sides. Look from the symmetry. It's 2 jumps to this x-intercept. It's 2 jumps. So the parabola is doing the same thing on both sides. So basically, just the best we can, we connect it. Okay? And don't forget your arrows. And this is the graph of my parabola. Vertex and x-intercepts. That's really all you need. Alright, so when you go on to the practice on your own, use the calculator, okay, and just practice doing this. Start with the vertex, get your x-intercepts, and then put your axis of symmetry there, because if you have that and you notice the points are not the same distance on both sides, then that means something happened wrong. Okay? Alright, so take it slow, practice with the calculator, see if you get stuck anywhere.